clarity over certainty, because certainty is never certain because nothing is certain. Like there's nothing that's absolutely certain, but clarity you can have with any area of life. And so when I'm thinking about stuff, about the future, about anything that I'm trying to seek certainty with, I always make a note to myself, okay, don't seek certainty, seek clarity. And clarity is being able to just make a decision now, but what I can do now.
Certainty is the great enemy of unity. Certainty is the deadly enemy of tolerance. Even Christ was not certain at the end. My God, why have you forsaken me? He cried out in his agony at the 9th hour on the cross. Welcome back to Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hypersexualized times of ours. And today, Benji and I are reunited on different hemispheres in order to talk about the beast within. This is something that we all have. It's kind of waiting in some dungeon, some really dark part of us to just jump out. And if it's fed, it starts to take over so much of our lives. So it's really important to understand what this beast is, how to not feed it, and what to instead feed instead of the beast within. That's all contained within this one beautiful, powerful, meaningful, effervescent, phosphorescent episode. So please enjoy the podcast today. Hey, everybody.
Hey.
We're going to do an episode of the podcast. I hope you don't mind. I hope you didn't just fall face first into this accidentally. I hope you're ready for something because Benji and I have something to talk about.
Yes,
Benji's,
yes, we do.
where are you right now? People could have guessed based on your background. It's super Japanese. It's like,
super
it looks fake. It's so Japanese.
Yeah. Paper walls, actual paper. Could poke my finger through it.
So 10 years ago, would you be able to handle being in a house made of paper with all your anger? Just be a bunch of holes.
Andrew, keep bringing this up. I'm not that angry of a person anymore. Last time I punched a wall was like 5 months ago. And then before that was like 10, 15 years ago. So twice in my life.
So when we travel together, just as a safety precaution, I typically wear full hockey outfit, just, like helmet, everything, just in case. Because if Benji attacks me, I'll just drop my gloves. I got some training growing up in Canada, so.
Oh, I'm sure you do. You got some hockey in you, yeah. Well, I'm in Japan. I just feel like I just arrived, even though it was like 2 days ago. The jet lag was real because I was in different hemispheres from one workshop to another. And then I slept when I got here for 18 hours straight. 18. Wow. Okay. Which is like twice as much as humanly normal for a human adult male. And I've never done that before in my life. So it tells you something.
That's great. That sounds like Mr. Incredible. After in Incredibles 2, shout out to Jack. Anyway, yeah, you went from Europe back to Japan, and now I'm in Brazil, and we are ready to rock. And give me something about what was like one memory that keeps on playing over in your mind from the event in Czech.
From the event, jumping in the lake, in the river in Prague, but from the event itself was seeing people that I have not seen in many years that I know are very disengaged with our faith and movement, but they have at the core a really strong belief in the blessing and God, Heavenly Parent, right? And so seeing them, it's like something called them out to that workshop that is deep in there, this desire to worship, this desire to be with community, this desire to connect, this desire to give back in some ways, right? And these events really call out those people, and I was really moved to see those types of people, that in any other setting would not have come to a worship type experience with brothers and sisters, and seeing them jamming to the frequency of resonance. Our band, our local European band over there, that was really special for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Already here, I wasn't with them, but some of our
Mm.
team met with a bunch of people to play volleyball, your sport, last night.
Word.
And there's a bunch of people that never go to any church stuff, but it sounds like they're coming to ours. So
Wow.
that's an interesting
Uh,
point. Like Sammy and I actually went out yesterday for food. We were supposed to get burgers with
okay.
the whole team, but we went off on our own just to go
Hmm.
there early. And
Hmm.
we thought we were at the burger place, but it was actually a cheese place. And this
Hmm.
cheese place
Ooh.
is the greatest place in the world. They just sell cheese stuff. So cheese bread with cheese in it. Like the bread is made of cheese and then there's cheese in it and then cheese sandwiches and then like everything was cheese. It was like my heaven and my hell because
Wow.
if I lived close
Yeah.
to there, I would be dead before I hit the
Yeah.
age of 50.
Yeah.
But as a guest, and so we went there, but nobody. We were trying to order, and by
Hmm.
pointing at the menu, and then he was asking us questions, and we're like, I don't know. So he's like, bring out the guy. And there's like one guy in the
Hmm.
back, who's Dennis, our bro Dennis, who spoke English, and he translated, and he kept on like putting his hand on our shoulder, and he was so happy to like talk to us and see us, and then we had like a deep thing going on with Dennis, and then he was part of a church here, and he was like, "What do you guys do?" We explained what high noon is. Like, that's the greatest. We need that. I was like, I know. And then there's this other couple that were listening in, and then we ended up eating with them at a
Yeah.
picnic bench in a park, and then we
Yeah.
introduced them to the whole team, and the wife was crying because she was so moved by the work that we're doing. And it's like for people who don't understand what witnessing is, it's like moving people's hearts towards God. It's taking away their shadows and offering them pure, unconditional love, right? And there's no better way to do that than giving them something that they desperately need, which is what everybody needs, which is sexual integrity, right?
Mhm.
And I just feel like people don't get it. Like the disengaged, of course, they feel welcome because we're creating the environment. When I was pressed against the wall, somebody's like, "So what? What is high noon? Like what do you guys actually do? Like what with this workshop?" And I was saying the essence of what we do is we create the container for culture to exist. The culture we cannot create, but we can stimulate by asking questions, but people have to participate. But it's essentially like we create the house, the structure, and then we invite the people to create the culture as a collaboration, like bacteria culture. It's just like these organisms moving, and we curate it, but we don't create it. We cannot create it. It's created through participation. And that's essentially all that we're doing in our online courses is like creating culture within these groups, creating culture at our live events. The
Yeah.
culture that everybody's looking for, which is family, which is like being free.
Yeah. Hmm.
Libertad, like freedom,
Liberation, freedom. Yeah. Okay.
freedom, true
Yeah,
freedom.
I definitely felt in the last few events because we've been testing new things, right, Andrew? Like new types of, basically new types of releasing shadows, new types
Yeah.
of releasing pent-up emotions. And it
Mm-hmm.
really occurred to me this one that worship, praise and worship music is a massive way for people to release things that
Yeah.
we've never really dabbled with at High Noon because it's like not
Not
been our thing.
seriously.
We're all like, musically talented in different ways and interested, but it's not been a like we've never been had a calling to like make a high noon band or anything, which
Yeah.
I'm interested in. But besides the point, it was like that was a big point for a lot of people to release all those things.
Mm.
In the Philippines, we had a kind of like a shadow release hugging session. We don't have a name for it, which was you could tell was like people, and we captured it and we put it on Instagram, like this
Yeah.
desire people have to just like hug people that they know need love and let them know they're loved and to be hugged and received unconditionally, that type of energy. And we
Yeah.
have people that just want to pray it out, just like want to pray it out and just let it all the anger, all the resentment, and then listen back to see what God is really saying to them. And we have the people that want to do the meditative stuff, which we also have been dabbling in, which is brand new but super impactful. So for some people is just to like sit with your thoughts and receive whatever God, spirit world, whoever is trying to tell them.
Yeah.
And so it's new because our typical way of releasing shadows has been like give some content, have some discussion, and hopefully through the act of giving and receiving, listening and talking, they're able to kind of decompress and let some things loose. We're just like playing with different ways and hitting it from every angle, and I think that was kind of a special realization I've been having.
Absolutely. Yeah. we went there and we had, you
Yeah.
know, this is the result of leadership, new leadership. Like our chapter leaders are really taking ownership of each of these stops on the world tour, and they're contributing quite a lot to the overall experience within their workshops, but it's also changing how we view what is possible at a workshop. And that's again, leadership typically seeks to be the one. I got the ideas, and then you try to, as a leader, prove that you can do everything, rather than let other people rise up. And the only real good ideas come from collaboration. That's obvious. So yeah, we experienced that, and shout out to chapter leaders. So far, it's been Andy Pak, who's not a chapter leader, but he contributed to the Europe chapter with Andronic, chapter leader with his whole team, David, Yulia, Sandra. They were amazing. Before that, it was America, no chapter leader. It's like the chapterless chapter. And then before that, Japan. Aiko's working her little self really hard. And now she has Yoshie. And then before that, Ravi, right? Ravester, who, anyway, shout out to Ravi. You're going through it. You're doing great. But let's get to the content. Let's get to the meat. This is, so as I travel, I realize that when you travel for like a week and a half, you're very much connected to your old self. And then anything past that, you start to become a different version of yourself. Your food habits change, right? You have to really you can't wait until you get back. You have to create a new self in order to survive. So you have to adapt to, like, I'm sleeping on a couch right now. Okay, that's just how it is, right? We don't get to control our food as much. Okay, you got to adapt. There's no gyms or anything. Fine, I'll just do push-ups randomly, whatever, right? You recreate yourself. But it also feels, when you're away from your natural environment long enough, that, like, I feel less emotionally connected to my family than, like, within that. When we went to the Bay Area, we were gone for about a week. And in that week, I was getting so many emotional, punches to the face through art, through media. And I just wanted to kiss my wife so much. And, like, I just wanted to hug my kids so much. And, like, now it's been so long that I'm just, like, trying to get through the day and be focused and be here. And over there, I know it's okay. And I check in every once in a while, but I can't be too connected. I have to be here. It's just like this thing where the tether, the string is stretching further and further away. And it's like in the movies where, like, Back to the Future or whatever, if you're not careful, some part of you just ceases to exist, right? Um, so in all of that, was like a very long roundabout way to talk about. I can see too that when you're traveling, but this is for anybody, you really have to be careful about where your eyes go, where your attention goes, because we have these monsters inside of us that are waiting to be fed, this beast inside of us. And it's men and women. For men and women, I think the beast is different. Men and women have very different energies. But you have to be careful. It's like, it could be like frustration. If you're feeding that, very, very, very dark things can happen. But there's one beast in particular, the sexual beast, that I know exists so strongly because I've experienced it. I'm sure you have too. But all of our listeners have experienced it. But it's like a beast that is easily avoidable if you just don't feed it. But it's this thing that, like, when you watch sexual content, it triggers something in you that otherwise is, like, dormant. It's like you're not getting these thoughts or feelings. But when you start to feed it, you watch porn, or you can even just going through Instagram, all of a sudden your mind starts to be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then this, like, you start to create this momentum of want, of desire, right? This very strong desire. And if you didn't feed it in the first place, it just wouldn't be there. You'd be at so much more peace. If you're just, like, reading a book under a tree, or you're just going about your business, totally fine. But the second you take out your phone and you start scrolling Instagram, TikTok, whatever, and you get these little seeds that are feeding this beast. It's kind of like, oh, it awakens it just with one little seed, and then you're like, more, more,
Yeah.
more, and then you just develop. And it's this beast that has no ability to ever be sated, to be satiated, to be full, to be satisfied. It has no bottom to its stomach. It just consumes and consumes. And it is the energy or the spirit of coveting, of wanting what you don't have. And by its very nature, it can't be full. It can never be done, right? So I want to hear from you because that was like a soliloquy,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's the complicated way to understand the beast, and then there's I think the simple way that I resonate with. So the complicated way is in the brain level, right? So what essentially is feeding the beast is feeding dopamine. It's getting dopamine spikes from feeding something, and that's why when we watch a particular sexual content on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, wherever, it's kind of like that dopamine monster, if you could call it that, that beast is fed a little bit, and it's like it's very very hard to backtrack from that because you're basically dangling like a giant piece of steak in front of this beast, in front of this monster, and you're kind of hoping that that monster is not going to gobble you up, right? And so that's the nature of dopamine, is that it is actually biochemically telling you that you need this thing. Because if you don't get this, if you don't get the fix, if you don't go down that path, then you're going to die. That's actually what it's
Mm,
saying to you. It's like you need this and you need more of it, because if you don't, you're going to die. Obviously, it's a lie, because sexual content is not necessary for survival. It's not like you're going to die if you don't watch this stuff, right? But the brain, at the brain level, it believes that, and so that's why it's nearly impossible. And when I say nearly impossible, I like to say that because we try to, like, guys and gals will try to fight this beast, and I think of it
mm-hmm.
like this is the simple way that I understand it. It's like we're in this boxing ring with this monster, and we are all have been in this boxing room with this monster, and so we can either fight it, which we tend to do, but the reality is that 9 times out of 10 we will lose, because that monster is big, it's strong, and it's been fed for many years through many forms of content, right? And so we can fight it and think like, oh, I'm going to fight this monster in this boxing ring and I'm probably going to lose. Or the alternative, the lateral way to dealing with the monster, is to force it into submission, right? So what does that mean? For me, it's always been through logic. If I can logic my way to force the monster into submission, then it has no way but to, like, to submit, to give in, because the
Mm,
monster at the end of the day, it's like it's the brain that's trying to get the porn or the sexual content, and so the brain deals with in the realm of logic and understanding. And so
sure.
for me, like the moment that I quit porn, it was actually not like an emotional, like, God, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna devote my entire life to never watching porn and masturbating again. It wasn't that. It was actually very logical. It was actually, the moment was, I don't need this anymore because it adds no benefit to my life, and all the benefit that I thought it was giving me is completely false. All the
Mm,
stress relief that I thought it was giving me, all the reasons why it was possibly good or healthy, like a healthy outlet for sexuality, was actually all false. And my brain's way of tricking me to believe that it was some kind of benefit. But in reality, I like forced that beast into submission through logic alone. It was just like, actually, it's actually adding nothing to my life at all whatsoever. And through doing
sure.
that, it kind of like was like cornered this monster in the corner of the ring, and it kind of just gave up, like that kind of feeling, right? And so now at this point in my life, the monster is small, it's like little, and I don't feed it like people know. I don't spend any time on Instagram or YouTube, because honestly, partly I don't trust that monster in my brain, but also I don't trust the algorithm. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
I don't trust the algorithm because I don't, like, I haven't spent enough time to teach it like what a good algorithm is, because all it knows is I'm a dude and I'm in my 30s, and I don't trust it with that information at all, even for a second. So that would be like the simple way of understanding, is that like we're trying to fight this monster, but we usually can't win, especially if people that are struggling and don't like have a long streak of sobriety and beating this monster. You're
Mm,
rolling the dice and trying to think, yeah, I can spend some time on this platform here and there. I can watch porn occasionally. But what you're doing
sure.
is you're literally hooking your brain, and the dopamine is feeding your brain so much so that you are going to believe that I need this, or else I'm going to die. And that's like not a game that's worth playing at all.
So, yeah. I think, I mean, what I understand from you is that you just said no, like logically, I don't want this, and then your heart followed, because it's similar to like in movies when it's such a cliche, it's like a trope of when when the hero decides that he's the hero or she, and it's like enough is enough,
Mhm.
right? um that decision is an internal decision where you just look yourself in the eye and you say, this is it. This is like a definitive moment, and that's great. But I also I so the whole dopamine thing is interesting because it's so necessary, right? Even cortisol. I used to like loathe cortisol because it was this thing that was preventing me from sleep. I'd get this flood of cortisol at about 2 to 3 a.m. for years, right? So I was like, stupid cortisol, but cortisol is what wakes us up in the morning. I was just getting it at the wrong time. Same with dopamine, is this beautiful thing that allows us to experience joy and fulfillment, but usually only when it's connected to something like oxytocin, which is like bonding, right? So if you're kind of like having isolated dopamine experiences, you have to look at what it's connected to. Do you want your joy to be connected to being alone staring at your phone or not? Because that's like curating your dopamine. Because one thing that it's like hard to fathom. I remember this used to be a part of our very early lectures, but it would put people to sleep. Is that
Mhm.
all addictions are is the narrowing of what gives you pleasure until it's really only just one thing that actually gives you pleasure. Everything else seems boring compared to that one thing that you're addicted to, whether it's video games, porn, or substances, right? And that's it mutes your life, and it just makes like everything else is black and white and just one thing is hyper technicolor 3D, like so stimulating, which is the thing that you're addicted to. And so it's learning how to unravel like and expand what things bring you joy. And when you stop having addictions, you start having more moments like I was saying in the podcast a couple of weeks ago, just having these deep, rich experiences watching a movie on an airplane. I've cried a few times. It was that one movie called Exhibiting Forgiveness, but then there's another one called Into the Wild, I think, which is a movie I haven't seen in 20 years about a young guy who like lived in nature, and it's a beautiful movie. I was crying, and it's because I could kind of be present to that person. You stop relating to people the more that you watch porn. It's this weird thing. You stop seeing people
Yeah.
as these nuanced human creatures, and you start just to see them as objects who either are there to give you pleasure or are in the way of you getting pleasure, right? And when, again, especially with porn, when you start to disconnect yourself from that addiction, you start to feel more joy. And this goes back to dopamine from simple things that you just can't, because your receptors are all looking for one thing, just like how plants in a forest are all looking for the sun. If you have an addiction, all of your receptors, all every facet of you is just looking for that one thing that makes all of you feel good, and that's
Yeah.
in this case porn. So it's dopamine is this beautiful gift. So is cortisol, FYI. Just shout out to cortisol. I love you, but we just have a difficult relationship. um but it's just learning what you want your dopamine to be associated with. That's the game of it. Because again, if it's only ice cream at night, that's a path to fatness, to sickness, to, you don't want that. You could also swap that out for a really good prayer at night, right? And then all of a sudden your dopamine's connected to purpose and meaning and value rather than, you know, calories and sugar and all these things. So
For
I
sure.
think that's the main thing, is to not vilify dopamine, but just to
Mhm.
curate your dopamine association. What is it connected to? And if it is connecting to something of value, then you're creating bonds with meaningful things. And
What is your
meaningful things are
dopamine?
giving you.
What is your dopamine connected to? And
Yeah, over the past month, hardcore like music and movies, like art. We were just in a museum here a couple days ago, and I was just crying because I wandered off. I needed to be by myself because we're always in groups here. We're traveling together, but I just started looking through the. It was it was artifacts and pictures from Brazil 100 years ago or 150 years ago, and it showed like the early immigrants from Japan who came here. But it also, I looked at, it showed little kids who were my kids' age who had no shoes, who had to dress in a full like suit to dig holes, and they were building the railway and all this stuff. And I just had this deep emotional experience of like, that could have been my kids easily, right? And that could have been me easily if I was just born at a different time. We live in this era of such extreme comforts, right? And so one of the values of doing uncomfortable things like traveling or whatever is that I'm just super sensitive to how blessed I am and how beautiful Heavenly Parent is and all this stuff, which is hard to do when you're living like a day-to-day routine because you don't feel much, right? You just like you have to like go outside of yourself to feel anything. That's why people watch so many movies or Netflix or whatever, right? But when you're kind of so outside of the realm of what's normal or comfortable, I just feel like a lot of raw emotions coming up and I'm embracing them. And but they're really hitting me through movies. We did a 12-hour plane ride and I didn't take any I took one pee in 12 hours. I just binge watched movies because I was really squished. I had no personal space. It's the only way to like, but it was also like I was looking for like I never get to watch movies by myself. So I'm just like I'm taking it all in.
Yeah,
So I would say through art and beauty. Art and beauty.
gotcha.
What about
That's
you?
nice. Well, shout out to Eastern China Airlines, which is what I took back from Prague to
It's
Japan,
very
and they have
specific.
only Chinese films, like 100 Chinese films, and not one Hollywood movie. I was like, this this is getting real too fast. Um, but my dopamine fix right now is playing music. I have to admit, like I have a big identified shadow in my life is that I love singing more than I express. All right. And it's something I'm working on. It was like my North Star from the whole tour. After like, cause I've been like, we're in this too. Like we're consuming our content and we're working through our own shadows, the staff. And my big thing is I love playing music and singing, and I get very shy and insecure around people, right? Which is not authentic. It's not living a high noon life. It's like I have this desire to express myself, and it's like being squashed by something, and that's what I need to work on. So my dopamine fix right now is just like I love. They have a piano here in Japan in our house,
Yeah.
and I'm just like on the piano jamming, singing some tunes, and like before the workshop, I was like really self-conscious because there's like a bunch of people in this house and it's loud to play piano. But now I'm just like I don't care, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
play some
Yeah.
tune, play some songs, and that's it. I mean, I was up really late last night just thinking of songs and memorizing lyrics. That's like something I like doing right now, and really feeling the emotional pull to certain songs and what they mean to me. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah,
art and beauty. Same with you. So
yeah.
that's one of our talks. If you get to see it, we have all new talks. We have an entire new kind of weekend. Some of it, which is a synthesis of older ideas combined and refined, and then some of it is really brand new content. And part of that is, the God languages. So how do you connect to Heavenly Parent is it through kind of religious activities? Like you really love Kyombe, Hunduke, this kind of stuff. Some people need to get out into nature in order to really experience the fullness of God. They need to be by a river or in a forest. Other people, it's through art and beauty. Other people, it's through acts of service. It's like getting into people's lives and helping them where they feel the value of like Jesus's whole ministry was of serving, right? So there's a bunch of different ways, but finding your own way is your way of replacing the using escapism to experience dopamine, which is what I was saying. When we are bored of our lives, we need to supplement. Just like, okay, when you're not eating good enough food, you have to supplement for the nutrients that you're not getting from your actual food, right? Similarly, if you're leading a life that is not stimulating you, you supplement your stimulation through other people. So that's why you stare at other people. That's what social media is. It's like I'm watching other people live life, right? Or movies or TV, Netflix, or porn is I watch other people have sex, right? You're borrowing stimulation from somebody else that seems more exciting to you because your life is not three-dimensional, it's not enjoyable. So then the idea is, how do you create a life that is so enjoyable that you don't want to escape from? That's what you have to do, is curate your dopamine so that you are associating meaning with joy. So it's not joy just for the sake of itself, but it's joy for the sake of fulfillment, that I'm a more fulfilled person. Because I think that's the difference between like fleeting happiness and true joy, is that your enjoyment of something should be connected to something of value, right? Even it could be video games, but it should be video games that um maybe you're playing with other people, right? Like I remember some of the funniest moments of my high school life were playing GoldenEye, James Bond, which is like way before all of your time. But like
64.
Nintendo 64, it was
64.
four
Yeah.
players at once. I remember so much smack talking, so much just like frustration and so much
Yeah.
joy and like all the emotions, because you're in a room with dudes focusing on shooting each other, which I probably have mixed feelings about looking back, but it's like it was we were doing something together, building an experience together. So it could be video games, but a lot of times video games are that supplementing joy because you don't know what else to do. But
Yeah.
yeah, finding your way, like that's it's annoying that we have to kind of suggest or prescribe things to do other than what you're doing. But it's just it's where we're at in terms of humanity, is like in terms of that food analogy, most of our food doesn't have sufficient nutrients because of the way that our soil is, the monocropping. Like, we're not supposed to grow tomatoes just with tomatoes. You're supposed to grow all types of different foods together because they feed off of each other. That's just the nature. But because of how we grow food, we don't like a tomato doesn't give us what a tomato used to give us. So then you have to take supplements. And similarly, we lead lives where we don't get outside enough, where we don't talk to friends as much, where we're not like singing as much because we're not going to church as much, because people aren't religious as much. And so all this has this result. The net result is we need to supplement. We need to figure out how to get enough of what we actually need. And that's the game. And when you do that, the beast has no power. It's in our loneliness. It's in our desiring to get stimulated from something outside of us. When that energy of like, I need connection or I need something is combined with stimulation from porn or from even Instagram or these kind of things, then now the beast has all the ingredients it needs to
Yeah.
start going to town and to start more, right?
Yeah. The something that's really helpful, I think, for people that are struggling with porn is that it's very easy to demonize it. But if you actually are somewhat self-aware and wise, you will realize that there's a reason that you're going to porn, and that is desire for connection. And if you start seeing any unwanted behavior actually as a form of wanting to connect, like it's a deep, really good way that your brain wants to engage with dopamine, actually, right? Is through connection.
Sure.
And it immediately turns this thing that I'm struggling with into a bad thing that I'm wrong and I shouldn't do to, oh, there's a reason for this. And the reason itself is actually good and healthy. It's just being used and utilized in an unproductive way. And so then it turns from this is a bad thing to actually maybe this is telling me something about myself. And there's something I'm trying to gravitate towards that's just not being filled. And that beast is not being satiated because it's just growing and growing and growing, you know? And so another way to see this is like when you shed light, when you don't have any shadows in our lives, then it's easier to experience light. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
that applies to porn. If you eliminate porn from your life, it's easier to experience connection, kind of like just what you were saying. But at a scalable level, if you just have no shadows, that's what we're talking about here. Then experiencing light, experiencing emotion, experiencing God is more powerful. I even had an experience recently where I was talking with my wife about some deep stuff, kind of like my insecurities, like singing and some other stuff. And then it was like after this really deep conversation with her, I realized that it was like I was unearthing these shadows that I didn't know existed. And then
Mm.
from that point of view and from that standpoint, I was able to go to like, to America for the GPA workshop and Prague for that workshop. And I felt like I was way more myself and able to give actually freely to these workshops without
Mm.
any reservation or insecurity because I felt like I was feeling myself more. And in
Mm.
both workshops, I was just like crying like nonstop every day. I was just like emotional watching people interact, and when I was talking and doing worship, I was just like crying. And I felt like that was only because I did the previous work before going to these workshops. Is like I needed to let loose these shadows. I needed to release something in order to fully give, in order to fully experience light. And that was such a
Mm.
powerful experience for me, you know. Um,
Yeah.
and it's like an instinctual thing for me now. Like when I'm about to travel, I need to make sure that like I'm going with the right heart. I need to be clean. I need to clean my conscience and have that canvas just totally white. And so usually involves talking with my wife, unearthing some stuff, chat GBTing a little bit, and then I feel like, okay, I'm kind of at high noon again. But it's weird because there's always something there, but I can always feel it. Like I feel like scared sometimes or insecure, or I feel like I'm not like I'm numbing myself. Like there's
Mm.
emotions that are not being released. And when I feel
Sure.
that, I can like feel it in my throat. Like I want to cry, but I'm just squashing it down.
Yeah.
That means there's something that's pent up that needs to be released. And that's how I do it, right? Even today, I was just telling you, Andrew, like we're celebrating a birthday party today. Um, for the Kyoko, the woman we're staying with here in Japan, and she is like the most hardworking mother of five that I know in my life. She's like up every day, all day, doesn't sleep at all, is always giving to the family, right? And so for her birthday, my wife and I decided to give her a Dyson vacuum cleaner, like the highest end vacuum cleaner, because they don't have a vacuum cleaner actually. They have a really old like
What?
plug-in. They have a plug-in one in this big house, Japanese house. They have a plug-in vacuum cleaner that's just heavy and clunky, right? And so we're like, let's get her a vacuum cleaner, the super nice one, right? And so she like totally unexpected for her. We popped out this surprise vacuum, and she started just bawling, like crying so hard, right? And because she really understood like that we get her heart, like how much she works for the family and doesn't receive the appreciation that she really deserves, to be honest. And she's just crying, right? And I start tearing up too, cause just seeing her cry, right? And like my old self would have been like, like let's just be shy and like I don't want to show this emotion, but instead I like went next to her and I just kind of gave her a big hug and we just were crying together, like just me and
Mm.
her. Everyone else was just laughing and like observing us, and we were just like crying. And I feel like those moments, and it's a simple, silly story, but it's moments like those where you realize like you can let them pass so quickly. Those moments with loved ones that really do mean something truly spectacular if you just take a second to notice them. But we can't notice them if we're full of shadows because we're always questioning ourselves and we're always belittling ourselves in our mind and saying like I'm wrong, this is wrong, and we're squashing those emotions that want to come out. And that's God that wants to be released. That's God that wants to come out. That's goodness in our hearts that want to be released, and those can only be possible if we clean ourselves and let God work
Mm.
through us. Oh, yes, Benji here, guys. If you've benefited from this episode and you love the podcast, then please consider becoming a donor for High Noon. It is a special privilege to be a donor. If you want to donate just $10 a month or $20 a month or $100 a month, if you want some way to contribute to something really, really impactful, and you have some cash to do that, then please let High Noon be that for you. We welcome you. We are still a nonprofit, and we use all the funds to help support our programs, to change the lives of lots of people and travel the world and do epic stuff like that. So please go to highnoon.org/donate and please help us out. All right. See ya.
I mean, that's a perfect example of when shadows are released, you are more able to connect with what's there. You can't see what's there when you have, you know, when all your
Mm,
senses are muted by shadows.
mhm,
Um, One of the movies that I binge watched was called The Conclave. It's about how they choose a new pope. It's fiction, but it was like the first 95% of the movie were unbelievably good. I was definitely mesmerized by it. Just really simple, really good acting. But then the last 5% of the movie were just Hollywood being Hollywood is so annoying because they ruined such a good thing. But one of it was there's a monologue by this guy who is talking about he was opening things up, like the opening ceremony, because it's like a bunch of voting and it can last days. And so he gave the speech that I found that I want to. It's about
Mm.
certainty, because a lot of times what I find, Benji, when you and I propose this idea of like changing your life, a lot of people are sure that they cannot change, right? That they're not able to change. And even in our check to truth be told, we had such a dismal sign up rate at our last event. We had people, I would say most people in that room crying at some point during the workshop, having a lot of deep experiences, and yet very few people actually sign up for our course. And there's a multitude of reasons why that might be, but a huge part of it for sure is this worry, anxiety, fear of the unknown, what if I fail? What if I can't change? And so this monologue is really short. I'm just going to read it. I have it here. Is about the idea of certainty. So he says, over the course, and I quote, over the course of many years in service of our mother, the church, let me tell you, there is one sin I have come to fear above all others: certainty. Certainty is the great enemy of unity. Certainty is the deadly enemy of tolerance. Even Christ was not certain at the end. My God, why have you forsaken me? He cried out in his agony at the ninth hour on the cross. Our faith is a living thing, precisely because it walks hand in hand with doubt. If there was only certainty and no doubt, there would be no mystery, and therefore no need for faith. Let us pray that God will grant us a pope who has doubts. How cool is that, right? And
Yeah.
so, same with you, is like, don't worry so much about the next step. Will it work or not? Will I be able to get rid of my porn habit and change it for something else? Don't worry about what it's going to be like to be a new person that doesn't watch porn, or who doesn't identify with watching porn, or whatever. When you need to make a step, just have faith and take the next step. And don't worry. There's so many people that they plan about having kids. We need a certain amount of money in our bank account before we have kids. We need, and it's like micromanaging God, right? Obviously, God wants to co-create, so that involves some thought and some planning and some action. But at the end of the day, you got to take the next step, and that's what faith is. And so, it's really frustrating and also heartbreaking to see a group of people who are on the precipice of change, but who are afraid to jump, because it is quite scary. Obviously, you're jumping into the unknown, or even worse, maybe you're jumping into something that you've already tried and failed at and don't want to fail again because you want to protect your ego, because you don't want to be known as a failure. Just try. Keep on trying until you figure it out. That's the only way you can figure it out, is by trying. Of course, you can have us as your support staff. You can have your parents. You can have your community. There's other people who care about you, but you're not able to figure it out from the couch thinking about it. You got to actually do something about it. And so joining our program is kind of a non-negotiable, unless you just so happen to have everything that you need to succeed, which nobody does, right? Which is like a group who are focused on you and your sexual integrity that you can check in intentionally at least once a week with. And you have mentorship and you have structured education. If you don't have all that at your disposal, then just join a group. It's all right there, you know?
Yeah. And it's community. That's what people desperately want and need. It's people that you can plug into and have a place of belonging with, right? That's what it
Yeah.
is. I think at the end of the day, it's like we're releasing shadows, which everyone needs to do, and every program offers that through a centered group of individuals that are God-centered, that are mature, that want the best for you, that care for you, that have no agenda, of receiving anything in return. You know, there's like it's so rare to find a group of people like that, and I think that's why people gravitate towards our programs.
Yeah. Yeah. So just take whatever you think the next step is. We encourage you to take it. If you need a
Clarity. Yeah.
smack, if you need a bucket of cold water on your head, metaphysically speaking, then let us be that for you. Reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you.
I actually think
Um,
about certainty a lot because it's a biologically, um, kind of what's the term? Infused, intertwined thing that we have, or we want certainty in life. For me, I like a tenet I live by is clarity over certainty, because certainty is never certain because nothing is certain. Like there's nothing that's absolutely certain, but clarity you can have with any area of life. And so when I'm thinking about stuff, about the future, about anything that I'm trying to seek certainty with, I always make a note to myself, okay, don't seek certainty, seek clarity. And clarity is being able to just make a decision now about what I can do now, right? And so it could be something like anything that really stresses somebody out. For example, a matching process, who to marry, right? Who to be blessed with. Big
mm,
form of uncertainty and anxiety that people perpetually overthink, right? And so the certain thing to do is to feel like, okay, I need to find a route that certainly, absolutely will find the perfect person for me, that God has definitely 100%, has a hand in matching us together, right?
mm,
Clarity would be, I don't really know what the absolute best thing is to do, but I'm going to be clear about my decision to, for example, for the next 6 months, I'm going to work, dedicate my time to my sexual integrity and no shadows, right? And then after 6 months, I'm going to start a matching process. That's clarity. That's not like you have no idea what the outcome is, but being clear is just, I'm going to do this now. And then after a certain time period, then I'm going to do this. And if you have clarity, then all of a sudden you free up all this mental bandwidth of uncertainty. Like, oh, should I do this? Should I do this? What if I do that? When am I get married? Because you don't have to think about it anymore. Because now I'm just like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do this.
mm.
And I think a lot of
Yeah.
this stress that people are um, accumulating in different areas of their life, like work, like school, like integrity, like blessing, the stress is caused by a lot of uncertain things that you want certainty with, but are lacking clarity and decisive decisions about this is what I'm doing. And then you just don't have to think about it anymore.
Mm. Yeah. So get clear. How can they get clear, Benji?
Yeah. I think just to decide. I mean, the thing that I recommend to people is like make a list of everything that you feel stress around. Like stress is a really good indicator that there's a lot of uncertainty that you're uncomfortable with in this uncertainty.
Mm.
So everything that's really stressful, and it could be a host of things, and then just make a decision about every single one about what you're going to do, start doing today, right? And so what happens is that anytime that topic comes up in your mind or is discussed, or your parents ask you about the matching process, and usually we get all anxious, right? Instead, you would just think, well, I already know what I'm doing here because I'm clear about what I'm doing, and I don't have to think about it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. So the beast will come knocking at your door, and if you don't feed it, it's got no power. So you have all the power. It's how you use your time. Also, conversely, the more that you are spending time experiencing beauty and curating your dopamine to be associated with meaning and value, the less that the beast will have any. Instead of knocking on your front door, they'll knock on like some window that you can barely hear until it just goes to somebody else, right? And then also, don't be certain, be clear, and be confident, and just go for it. So yeah, great. Thank you, everybody. Please reach out to us. Reach out to somebody. Reach out to God, and God bless your faces.
Jude, Manse, bye-bye. Hey, did you know that our team wants to do more events? Well, if you want to bring the High Noon message to your community or group, then let us know and we'll try to work something out. There's a simple application that you can fill out right now at highnoon.org/invite. And one of our team members will get back to you to see what's possible. That's highnoon.org/invite. All right, see you in the next episode.